Welcome to Did You Know with Richard Utley. During this one-hour program, join us as we take a look at today's headline news, Richard's views, history, inspirational interviews, and much more. Did you know this program airs every first and third Tuesday at 11 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube? Here's Richard. Now sit back and enjoy today's featured presentation.
Well, Happy New Year. It's a new year, 2026, and we got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. As you know, in the last few months, I've been recommending some of you to run for political office. And now's the time for you to do that. I've asked you over the holidays when you're with family and friends to talk about your vision, whether it's government, school board, or whatever, that you think that you can do a better job, or you have ideas that could help the process along. And so I'm telling you now to start doing your research, because pretty soon in the next couple of weeks you have to get those petitions out and you have to get them signed. And like I said before, find out all the information before you start to run. I've seen so many people, great people who would have been great political people in great political positions, but they didn't follow the rules. They say they're supposed to have 100 signatures, they only had 85. Or whatever it is, they have issues. So I'm begging you, I'm asking you. So, you know, you talk about school board, you talk about everything else. We have to invest. Ladies and gentlemen, this is 2026, 2027. We got some work to do now. If you don't know that, then I don't know. You must be hiding under a rock. You can see what's going on. I've been begging you for the last 3-4 years I've had this program. We got to look out for ourselves. We got to develop our own communities, our own economic development. We got to teach our own history. We can no longer wait for anybody to ride through and help us out. That's why I've always thought it's so important that we know our history. And since I've always said that we should know our history, and I've always tried to give you 3 or 4 people I may put on, I give you things for you to look up. I think it's more critical now than it was before. And why do I say that? One of the reasons is when history becomes a political weapon. Now you may say it is. President Trump, as you know, made a decision to remove Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. He got rid of Juneteenth at the National Park Service. Trying to take things away that we've done. I'm sure you've heard about the plaques over in Germany and France and all those places that depicted the blacks that served in World War II, and take those plaques down. You can take the plaques down, but our history will always live on. You can't erase our history now. And since you can't erase our history, it's our job to make sure that our history is not erased. So I'm begging you, I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you, let's start telling our story. But let us tell the story the real way. Let's not try to make it clean. There's no way you can take history, no matter where you are, what country you're in, and make it perfect. Because there's no such thing that there was a perfect nation. So I hope that you take this very seriously. So, you don't want to honor Martin Luther King's birthday, so you don't want to let nobody in free at Juneteenth. That's okay. It's all right. Because we understand. I just want to give you a couple other things. Over the 400 years of institutional racism, slavery started in 1619 and ended at think about it. The whole period was 1619, 1865. The Black Code, 1865 to 1866. The Ku Klux Klan, 1865. Jim Crow was 1877 to 1954. Woo! That's around my time, isn't it? Redlining. What's redlining? Well, it started in 1934 and it really ended like 1968, but we know they're still redlining. War on drugs, 1971. Mass incarceration, 1973. And three-strike law, 1993. Now think about those things that I've mentioned to you, but let's talk about 4 things that I want you just to think about. I just want you to think about redlining. where it was before and where it is now, and what we got to do to understand it. So if you don't know what redlining is, I want you to do your research and go find out what redlining is. Find out what the war on drugs is. Because the war on drugs really had a major impact on who? Us. We ain't going to talk about how the drugs got into our community. Because, we didn't have the boats and the planes to bring it in. You just know that. We all know that in our community. Mass incarceration. Think about who's in prison and some of the things that they got in prison for, some of the petty things. And the 3 strikes law, has affected a lot of families. So we need to be aware of those things, and we need to tell our young people about them. They need to know how the process of the system has developed, and I'll use the word rigged on us. And it's been rigged on us. But so therefore, I'm saying to you, we got to do a better job of enhancing the knowledge for our young people. We need to tell them about the 3 strikes. Because some of our family members you may know, has been affected by the 3 strikes. So they need to know about it. I bet you some of them say, I never heard of 3 strikes. But then somebody that the 3 strikes has been affected by. The other thing I want to say to you real quickly is that history is so important. But we got to tell our own story. So today I have 3 people that I'm going to bring up and tell you who they are. We're going to put them on. Gordon Park, who's he? Find out who he is. Everybody wasn't a basketball player, everybody wasn't a football player, and everybody wasn't a track star, and everybody, we have people doing all kinds of things. And there's some young people out there, I want you to know that you've been taking pictures. Well, if you've been taking pictures, guess what? You might be the next Gordon Parks. So do your research on Gordon Parks. Sidney Poitier, I'm sure a lot of you remember him. You young people may not know who he is, but do your research. Find out who he is. And why I want you to know, because a lot of you can be actors and a lot of you can be filmmakers. You see, I realized one thing. We have to do a better job of showing people look like us or in certain positions so that they can understand that. Because they see basketball players, they say, I want to be a basketball player. They see a football player, I want to be a football player. So we got to show them we want actors, we want photographers, we want school teachers, we want ministers. We want everything in the community. We need to have all kinds of leaders and all kinds of things. And the third one is Richard Pryor. Find out who he is, because a lot of you out there think you're comedians anyway. So if you think you're a good comedian and you think you can do good at it, then maybe you should get paid being a comedian. So these are 3 people that I've given you that are very prominent. They're people that are early on. And this is before I go into my major program, go back to our neighborhoods and look at the heroes that we had in our neighborhoods. Find out those people that did a lot for us. We had Martin Luther Kings. We had Jesse Jacksons in our community. So let's find out who they are and let's pay homage to them. Okay, so today I've decided, since we're going to kick off 2026, we're going to start off with what I believe is one of the most important things: education, leadership, and guidance. And I have a young man I'm getting ready to bring on my program, Reverend Josh Robertson. Put him on, please. Good seeing you, Pastor. Good seeing you today.
Likewise. It's an honor to be on to discuss this very important issue.
The reason I have you on for 2 reasons. One of the reasons is that I think you understand the importance of the plight of the black community. You understand the plight. I use the word plight. And 2, you have a vision and you have a concept, and I want to get your perspectives of it instead of getting my perspectives of it, because you're out there. So before I got some heavy questions to ask you, but before that, I'm going to allow you to tell the audience who you are and what you're about.
Absolutely. My name is Joshua Robertson. I am the senior pastor of the Rock Church in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I am the CEO and founder of Black Pastors United for Education, and I am the superintendent of the Harrisburg district of the Church of God in Christ. And I am a native from Harrisburg, born and raised. I come from a wonderful family. My dad is a pastor. My mother has been working with my dad, and they've been pastoring a church in Harrisburg, in the south side of Harrisburg, for the last 49 years. So I love my city, and one of the reasons why I am passionate about education is because, as a youth, I was, a major basketball player, football player, just talented as a youth, and I thought that you couldn't have told me that I wasn't going to play in the NFL one day. I was good enough to play Division I football, and so I did that. But I know what it's like to matriculate through K through 12 education in Harrisburg and graduate at a first or second grade level in reading. And so to be an adult, to learn how to read really at 19 years old, and when I tell about my story, many people are, wonder how in the world you got through all those years, and what about your parents? My parents, they shrink when they hear me talk about it, but my parents trusted the system. I never brought home a bad report card. I brought home A's, B's, and C's, K through 12. But there's a leak in our educational building, and a lot of youth are slipping through it, especially if you don't have Division I football, basketball potential, or you're not a great sportsman. It's very easy to slip through the cracks. So for me as a pastor, I am passionate about education because I feel like that Jesus calls us to be concerned about the least of these. And in our community that is under resourced, like you were talking earlier in the program, redlined, which means that the distribution of resources are strategically withheld from our community. I think we need to stop looking to the government or any other system or structure to uplift Black people and brown people and marginalized people, and we need to look to one another and uplift one another. And so education, I feel like, is a way to do that. And that's why I'm passionate about it as a church, as a pastor, and also as an organization.
Before I go into what I was going to really start about the article, I want to go back on your conversation you just had. Um, Something you said is very important. A lot of our young people don't understand that education is a pillar to how we grow and develop. Sometimes, like you said earlier, you did Division I because you played football at Minnesota, correct?
Yeah. University of
Uh,
Minnesota. Yes.
okay, well, I understand that. And me,
Yep.
I ran track Division I at the University of Pittsburgh. But after that, once you get there, how you going to stay? But
Mhm.
something you said, I want you to go back. Would you explain to my audience the importance of the foundation of you can't wait till your 11th, 12th grade say you want to go to college. You don't have to go to college, whether you want to go to trade school. Would you please tell my audience the importance of developing that foundation, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade? Because I don't know if you're aware of it. I know this for a fact. There's been many studies, and I know that there's been institutional studies that says, okay, when do they think what's going to be our reading level in the Black community? And they say, oh, the reading level going to be about third grade when they graduate. Well, let's build some more prisons because what else are they going to do?
Mhm.
You know, I run into too many kids that tell me they want to be rappers. How you going to be a rapper? You can't read and write. You can't put two sentences together, but you want to be a rapper.
Or you
Or
can
you
be a
want to be this.
rapper and then they rob you of your money because you can't read your own contract.
Well, that's true, but let me ask you this. I will got your kid on. Now, you do know this.
Mhm.
Many of the rappers that we have did go to college. They
Mhm.
just flip the script to make it feel like they're part of the
Mhm.
hood. So I just want you to emphasize, because I'm getting so trouble with kids that can't read, can't write. It's embarrassing sometimes. You ask the kid their name and you try to spell it, and then they try to do it generic, and it don't match up because when the parent named the kid, they couldn't spell it, and they named it however they wanted to name it. Or you get, kids get frustrated, and I was one of those kids that, when I was growing up, my parents basically said early on, my father, I remember very, Lord, I just hope you get out of high school. That's what. Just hope you get out of high school. We weren't talking about college. We said high school. But
Mhm.
you're right. Parents have the tendency to put the responsibility on somebody else other than yourself. And like you said, yeah, you had good grades, but here's what happened. I had a person one time that they called me and they wanted to go to school and they wanted to go and told me they finished very high in their class. And when they got to the university, they had to take the placement test. And whoa! The placement test, where they thought they were way up here, when the placement test came, they were way down there. And they were
Mhm.
unprepared, and then they got frustrated, and that's why a lot of times they quit because they're frustrated. And sometimes we put so much pressure on athletics, and when we talk about kids that can read and write and smart, they get bullied. And we got to stop that. I don't know
Mhm.
how we got to stop it, but what do you think about all that?
I mean, I feel like children need a hybrid approach of they need high standards and they need great discipline. And so I feel like, a part of what you just said at the end is so true. I feel like we keep lowering the standards, and then those who do excellent in those lower standards, the moment they get to the standards that everyone else is operating off of, they find out that they're average or below average at best. And I just don't think that's how kids are. We currently have 5 learning centers in Pennsylvania now. And these learning centers, our kids are coming, they come from the worst neighborhoods, they come from the worst homes, all of that. They come to us failing across 4 to 5 subjects, and within a year, they're almost on the honor roll. And why? Because we expect them to do great things. We have high expectations, we have high standards, and we have high discipline, right? So we expect every kid to level up. And you'd be surprised if you incentivize success, not just success with their bodies through athletics, but if you incentivize success with their minds through education. And I think there's a difference between schooling and education. Education actually involves learning. Schooling can, you could just go to school and learn how to be, successful in taking tests and checking off boxes. But education requires critical thinking, insight, perspective. And so I think that the purpose of education needs to shift from just creating workers and employers to creating thinkers and academicians and philosophers and people who are at the top of their career because we've developed the mind, not just the mind, but also the moral compass. And this is why I think churches should lead the way in educating our children. I don't think we should be looking to somebody else to educate our kids. We shouldn't be sending our kids to school. We should be bringing our kids to our own locations where we have the opportunity to educate our kids. In the introduction, you were talking about the current administration taking away the MLK Day, Juneteenth, all that stuff. And I may not be the most popular in this opinion, but I could care less because I don't expect somebody else to celebrate our heritage and our legacy. It's ours. I expect us to celebrate it. I think it's a crime when we don't celebrate it. And this country that we live in, you were talking about slavery and how far back that goes, and then you're talking about the Reconstruction. You're talking about civil rights movement, and I don't think that I don't think that I would ever expect this country to continue a legacy of celebrating African American achievement. And I don't look to the country to do that. I think that's our responsibility. So, I think it's shame on us if we don't build our own schools, have our own churches, build our own buildings, build our own businesses, and have our own hospitals where we can be respected and dignified, and we can celebrate what we want to celebrate. I think that's the beauty of living in America is that we do have the freedom to do that. We just have to have the will to do it and the collaborative spirit to do it together.
Well, it's remarkable because I agree with everything. I agree with everything that you. I agree with everything you said. I don't need to go to no national park free.
Hmm.
That didn't because you took it off. It didn't mean anything to me. You're right.
Hmm.
We need to take responsibility for ourselves, and
Hmm.
we have not done that. We've gotten a little lax on that, and
Hmm.
so people like you, we need out in the community to help develop it, but hold some of us accountable. We've gotten comfortable. We've gotten so comfortable that we just think everything is going to be everything. It's just like you can look at all kinds of things. I'll just use the SNAP program. Okay, in certain states say now you can't have cookies, you can't have soda, which is very bad for you. So, but at the same time, where is the grocery store where you can buy fresh fruit, meat, and vegetable? There are very few of them. Most stores are in the neighborhood is mom and pop, and that's where you go. I'm admitting that's why we got a lot of health issues that we have. Why do we have health issues? Because when I was growing up, no pun intended, potato chips, Mountain Dew, them little cakes, tasty cakes, they were things at one time, at one point, was probably my lunch, breakfast, or even dinner. So we did not understand we didn't understand the healthy part. Now we're better informed. Now you can Google everything, and Google will tell you everything. You know, I think that we don't. I agree that education and accountability of education should be on us. Now, you're from Harrisburg, but I have people who watch this program in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and whatever. But the unique part, no matter where you are, it's all the same. You know, Schools are failing. Urban schools are failing. Kids can't read. Kids can't write. I don't care what nobody tell me. A lot of them can't. There will always gonna be those that's gonna make it regardless of anything. Me and you, we made it. However we made it, but we made it, which is important. But we made it. I ain't gonna say it was good, but we made it.
We made it.
But we made it. But I want people to understand, like you said, we got to teach our kids reading and writing. I was reading an article. It said, we can just talk about it. It said, black men dropping out of college, why we need to unlearn this. And this Damon Carter, it's called the Carter Report. Now, he had some questions, and I'm going to just ask you the questions that from the article I read. This isn't just a school problem to a generation wealth problem, is it?
No. I think it's again, it's a we put more emphasis on the structures than we do the students. And that's the reason why, we allow politics to get in to the middle of educational conversations. We're more concerned with where the kid goes to school and who gets the money than we are the actual kids' matriculation through the curriculum or even building curriculum to that prepares our students. What I feel like the curriculum should do is prepare our students to know what it means to be American. I think the curriculum should prepare our students morally and ethically. And then I think it should prepare our students to be global collaborators and global competitors in a world that now is changing, right? The AI, the we're in the informational age, right? So you got AI that's surging, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how are we teaching our kids how to live and survive and thrive in a world where a lot of the jobs that you see today won't be there. I was in Arizona not too long ago and I called an Uber. The Uber didn't have a driver, right? It didn't even have a driver. I got in the car and I was the only person in the car, and the car took me to my destination, right? So you have technology and this informational world and AI replacing a lot of jobs that exist today. How are we preparing our children for that world? And, so for me, it is, yeah, you have African American men dropping out of school when they get to college as one who failed out, right? You have men dropping out of college, failing out of college. Why? Because our current educational systems are not preparing our kids to be successful in the years to come. And so we need to take the focus off of the systems and put it on the students. And so, that's why my passion is education, and my passion is our children, and education being the conduit that is used to prepare them for the future. Like you said, the plight that we want to see them on. We want to change the current trajectory from the school to prison pipeline, to the school to success pipeline, right? That's the way that the trajectory should be heading.
Okay, the other question, this will be a good one for you. It's a softball question to you.
Okay.
Low academic preparation. The American public school system fails too many black boys long before college. If high school didn't prepare you, college hits like a brick wall.
hmm Um, and it's an unpopular statement, but I'm gonna make it. There's only one prison, school to prison pipeline, and that's our public school to prison pipeline. That's just the reality. Our public schools, and mind you, I don't think our teachers in the public schools are trying to fail or anything like that. I think that they are well intentioned, but when the classroom sizes are way too big, you have 30 plus kids in one room. When teachers don't have the books that they need, they don't have the technology that they need, they don't have the support systems that they need in order to teach kids adequately, you have a problem. And money is not the issue, such as in Pennsylvania. When people say that our schools are underfunded, I mean, I wonder how, right? The average student, the average per pupil spending in Pennsylvania is upwards of $24,000. If you have an IEP or you have special needs, it can be close to 40 to $50,000 per student per year, right? Our learning center right now, we educate kids for less than $6,000 a year, and almost all of the students in our learning center are on honor roll, right? Smaller classrooms. The people who are in classroom with them are not teachers; they're learning guides, and so the curriculum and the pedagogy comes from an accredited, state accredited teacher. The curriculum is state accredited, and so it just tells you another system that's in place for our students could produce different results. So you want to know why kids are failing out of school. I think you do have to point to not just the public school system, but I think you have to start there, because the public school system is what houses most of the children that are black and brown and in under-resourced communities. And so I think there has to be a massive overhaul of the system in order for our children to be successful. In Harrisburg, where we are now, you have less than 13% of the students at grade level in math, and less than 9% of the students at grade level in reading. If as a parent, if my child brought home a 13% on a test, I not only have something to say to my child, I got something to say to the school and to the teacher. I'm wondering what is fundamentally wrong, for our kids to be doing that bad. And it's the reality. And we need to stop and put politics aside. We need to stop and put all social commentary aside and figure out what's going wrong with our children and correct this problem.
Okay. College isn't the only path, but education is mandatory. So, I think it's very important, and I want you to elaborate on it, because everybody is not college, and everybody don't want to go to college. Everybody shouldn't go to college. I mean, we
Mhm.
got trade schools out there. We got skill schools. We got professional certificates. We got real estate license. We got apprenticeships, even military careers with entrepreneurship and all kinds of other things that we have. So what do we need to do to let our kids know that they have all kinds of things that they can be? Because what happens is they get buttonholed into, well, if you ain't college or whatever, and you can come to find out, and I always say this to people: if you don't have somebody that's the plumber, if you don't have somebody the electrician, shame on you. And a lot of them make a lot more money than going to college. And some people go to college, they get in so much debt that it's frustrating. So, what do you say to the people out there in the audience here to say to them it's important, but the key is education, being able to read and write, being
Mhm.
able to read that lease, Being able, if you go buy a car and you do the math, you find out that you're gonna pay whatever. Even it's a loan, you get a loan
Mhm.
for $2,000 and you read the fine print, and you're paying $4,000. And if you miss the payment, even though you was paying 25%, now it's 35%.
Mhm.
So what do we need to do to make sure to express the importance? I guess the key is, like you said, the importance of education, the importance of reading and writing. We have not, like you said, I would admit to you, and I'm the first to admit to you, when I was growing up, there is no question, every black community neighborhood that I know, even though I grew up in Pittsburgh in the neighborhood, they went to church, and you had to learn that little Easter poem, that one sentence or whatever it was. But you had to learn. So you had that. Now, a lot of people don't go for a lot of reasons, but I'm saying to you, but the responsibility is, I put some of it on churches, I put some of it on these wise and all these other kinds of social organizations or whatever, but we have to start encouraging academics. We put so much on sports. You know, if you go to a school board meeting and if they get ready to coach, or you feel that your kid is not playing, and you got your it's packed, it's packed. But like you said, where's the accountability of education when you get back and you say 13% or 19%? Where is where is the I want to say the uprise, because, like you said, we have allowed mediocre. We've allowed it.
Mhm.
We've allowed the standards to be low. We have allowed the standards to be set so low, but what people don't know, the standards are so low, and then when you reach it, you happy. You say, "Well, I'm here." But when you get in the real world,
Exactly.
so what do you say about all that? Because this
I
is your
mean,
passion.
it is, and like I feel like churches by the scores need to be attending the school board meetings. In the Harrisburg district right now, just over the last month, there was a video that went viral of a big brawl in the middle of the hallway, in the middle of the day, right? There's fights at our school every single day. But when you read the newspaper is bragging about the first transsexual voted on the school board, right? So we're celebrating values that are not Christian values, values that are not central to our community. And mind you, I believe in the dignity and respect of all people. I don't care that you're transsexual. I don't care what you are. With the LGBTQIA community, I respect all people. But why are we bragging about that when we have a crisis with our kids? We have violence in our schools. We have kids underperforming, and we are pushing this agenda of gender and sexuality to kids. This is criminal. Our kids can't read, and we want to introduce them to sexuality and gender dysphoria and this stuff. This is crazy. And we live in a world that now I think Christians are afraid to talk about it. But where is the church going? Where is the and for me, it is, I look at the black church as the leader of the civil rights movement. We were the ones who had the courage to stand up and speak the truth to the powers that be. The reality is, I want my children to grow up in a society that respects all of our values. You mean to tell me we can't say the Lord's Prayer in school, but we can have whatever else lifestyle going on in our educational system? No, no. And I think, when will our churches realize that Sunday morning worship is meant to give us the fuel we need for Monday advocacy at the school? And our schools have potential, but not without civic engagement. Our communities need to be involved and need to be there at those school board meetings. And like you said, not just about who the high school basketball and football coach is. No, that's ridiculous. How in the world are we talking about building a football facility or a basketball facility or doing any other extracurricular activities and our kids can't read? That is insane. We have our investments and our priorities in the wrong place. And to me, I think pastors should unite even if we disagree with one another. I personally, I don't trust either of the political parties, whether it be Democrat or Republican. I don't trust neither, and I don't think that's a personal opinion. So I don't care if you are more Democrat or more Republican leaning. It does not make me no. Never mind. I think wherever you are, you need to stand up for what's right in that party, and when you see what is wrong in that party, you need to be the prophet to say that's wrong and be the ones who would stand in the middle and unite the community. It's why we came up with the organization Black Pastors United for Education, is to bring pastors to the community, get outside of the four walls of the church. I don't really like that terminology, but you get what I'm saying. Get out of just church business and realize that church business should extend to community business. Our job is to uplift the community. And I think without attending school board meetings, holding our school boards accountable for the values that we stand for as a community, without it, then we'll let an agenda pass through. And next thing you know, we lose a generation, which I feel like we are doing now. We're in danger of doing now.
I think the word that you used was accountability. And that has always been an issue, accountability. And we might want to talk about the schools, but the parents has to take some responsibility. Now, I'm not naive enough not to know there are parents out there that are still children, because children are having children. And also not children having children, but you also have this, like you say, this legacy of education wasn't good for me, so it's not going to be good for you. But yet they don't understand that that plight will determine where they're going to go in life, what's going to be their stay in life. And we have so many, as you and I both know, the pipeline from school to prison. If you go back and you look at it, that's where a lot of them are. And a lot of them are frustrated because they can't get a job. So since
Hmm.
they can't fill out the application, they figure, well, I'll sell drugs or I'll rob this or I'll do that. And it has an impact. And I tell people this all the time. It has an impact overall on the family. I tell people when somebody gets frustrated, they do things and they don't understand there's a repercussion to it. So my thing to you is, what are some? I mean, you know, I want you to be hard hitting. I want you to speak
Hmm.
your mind, which you will do. I know you will speak your mind. I want you to tell this audience what they need to be told in terms of what you believe, because I want people on here to have their vision, how you see it. No, is everybody gonna agree with everything you said? No. Is everybody gonna agree with everything I said? No. But guess what? I don't care. Now I'm
Yeah.
lucky. I'm a little luckier than you. I'm like your dad. We're at that point in our lives we could say a little bit more than we might have said back in the day. Because I get young people tell me, "Oh, you guys did this." Yeah, it's easy for you to say because you're on the sideline now and you don't know what we went through.
Hmm.
You know, I hear it all the time. I was at the Broad Street Market a couple of days ago. I said, "Well, Mr. Ellie, let me tell you, we ain't gonna put up with what y'all put up with." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Do you own a business?" No. Do you own? You got millions of dollars? Nope. So how you gonna survive? That's why even if we want to change a lot, then we need to develop entrepreneurs, and then we gotta support people. I tell that to people all the time because if you have entrepreneurs in your community, then you can hire some of your community. Where somebody, and I say it all the time because I've seen it and I've heard it, where when you're growing up, you do something simple, stupid, whatever, you don't realize it, and later on in life, it comes back. Oh, he shoplifted when he was in 8th grade. The man is now 25 years old, ain't did nothing, been a perfect citizen. And they'll say, well, I don't know if I want to hire him because, you know, he's shoplifted. And so now you're penalized. And as you're penalized, you get frustrated. And as you see the line, you don't see the growth.
Hmm.
So please tell my audience exactly how you feel.
Well, I feel like that um, churches should be should get into the business of educating children. And I think churches should be looking to use their space for K through 12 private school education. And we should be leveraging the K through 12 educational experience to evangelize our community and disciple these young men and women, boys and girls, and teaching them a few things. Number one, what it means to be Christian manhood, Christian womanhood. I think we should be giving them a civic education. Let me give you an example of that. One of the things that hinder churches being utilized for education, private schools and churches are educational occupancy regulatory laws. So, for instance, the fire marshal could drop his kid off at Sunday school at your church and walk into service and be completely fine, but would have to come back on Monday and shut your school down because that same space is not adequate for a school. Well, here's the thing, what's the regulatory body that makes laws like that and that could revoke laws like that? Our kids need to learn about those things while they're in school. The mayor, city council, what's going on right now? Our kids need to be learning about these conversations while they're still at that fashionable and formidable age. So for me, a civic education is vitally important. What's going on right now, federally, right? Our kids need to be aware of that when they're kids and learning about that so that they can participate and what we call what I call the American experiment of democracy, whatever that is. We need to be educating our kids so that they know that. So imagine if they had character formation by learning biblical manhood and womanhood, a civic education. We teach them STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. We teach them um, about the trades, right? So kids are exposed to trade school. I think kids need career exposure, career exploration, career education, and career experience before they turn 18, right? That needs to be a part of their K through 12 experience. And then, of course, giving them somewhat of a liberal arts education to shape the mind. We want kids who are critical thinkers. And so, our goal as a society should be to prepare our kids that when they turn 18, they're marriage ready, right? They are career ready, they are college ready. They are military ready. They are entrepreneurship ready. They are government affairs ready. They are global collaborators ready, right? They are ready for the real world that exists. And so, if we want to live in a country that we are proud of, and if we want to live in a country that we're safe in, and we want to live in a country that can really show forth the glory of God, I think we have to leverage K through 12 education to do it. And we should not. Carter G. Woodson talked about this in the 30s, that how can we send our kids to government sponsored schools and expect them to know who they are as Black people or expect them to know who they are as Christian people? And I believe that those prophetic words ring true for today. So for me, I would love to see, just like you have the notion of going to Catholic school, I would love to see kids going to Kojic school, going to AME school, going to Baptist school in local churches, utilizing our space to educate kids. What is our churches doing Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.? What are these Sunday school rooms doing? The church spaces are some of the most underutilized pieces of real estate in our community. And so you have all of these churches in our city. And really, I think there's I think obligation more than an opportunity. You have some churches that have 30 members here or 40 members here or 15 members here or whatever. These churches need to come together, right? We're stronger together. Come together, learn how to combine and maximize each other's strengths so that we could use these pieces of real estate that we own, not just to have worship on Sunday morning, but to really fulfill the mission of Christ, which I believe is evangelism and discipleship and leveraging K through 12 education to do that. That's my dream. That's my endeavor. That's what I believe God has given me to do. And I'm determined to do that. So I appreciate just the time today to engage in this conversation. It's so rich and it's so necessary.
No, we ain't finished yet. We got a few more minutes. I
Okay.
want to bring up another topic. The
Okay.
same education. How do we get, since you talk about education and we're talking about schools, why all of a sudden, even when I was growing up, we used to have a lot of trade schools. We had trade schools. We encouraged trade schools. What happened to that? Because what happened was once the trade schools went away, or they took out, for example, and I'm going to lay it on the table, when I was going to school, and I know I'm old, ladies and gentlemen, I understand I had print shop, I had mechanics, wood shop. I had 4 or 5 just a class to see if I even liked it.
Hmm.
Auto mechanic, period. Home ec. These are things that we need to be exposed to see if we like it or if we want it. So now you
Hmm.
take all them out, and so you go to a kid and you say, "Oh, you should work at a print shop, or you should become a carpenter, or you give us the." I believe this. We need to be exposed to make a decision if we like it or if we want to do it. The problem is we don't. Only thing they see on TV is football, basketball, and I want to be this, I want to be that, and they don't see other opportunities.
Again, I think this is the problem with expecting them, whoever them is, we expect them to expose our kids to these things. Notice how you don't have to look for a trade school in the suburbs. No, that's not the case. You don't have to look for trade school in the suburbs or in rural America. It's just hard to find them in urban America, right? So again, like I think at some point we got to take the blinders off of our eyes and stop wishing for the best and start creating the best. So we want trade schools. We don't have plumbers. We don't have plumbers in the inner city. We don't have, or companies that do electrical work. We don't know. We have all of these things, right? The reality is, especially as Black and brown people, the reality is we're some of the most talented and ingenious people in this country. We contribute to this country just like anybody else. The problem is we don't work together. That's our problem. We let something called politics. We have the nerve to think that these parties, Democrat, Republican parties, have our best interests at heart. Instead of thinking that no, we as a community, we have our best interests at heart. So it's until we as a people take responsibility for our own communities and build our own trade schools and stop asking for permission for other people. We don't need to do that. So for me, I feel like if we would ever unite, and for me, I look at churches, right? And we have all of these denominations. Great. We need to let denominations distinguish us, not divide us. That's our problem. We act like little gangs, even with the fraternities and sororities. We act like gangs, right? Instead of coming together to work collaboratively, it's like your territory, my territory. No, that's ridiculous. We should come together as a people. That doesn't mean we have to agree with everything. That doesn't mean we have to, do everything the same way. But for the greater empowerment and endeavors of our youth, I think it's critical that we work together and stop looking for whoever you was talking about when you said them and they. No, we should be looking in the mirror, one another, and building the future we all want to live in.
Well, you got time is flying, so you got 2 minutes,
Okay.
maybe 2.5 minutes. It's your platform to say what you feel or what you feel that you want to say to my audience before we
Hmm.
end this program. You got it.
So I'll lead with this. The scripture says, "Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity." It's like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard that ran down to the skirts of his garment, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessing. The place where God commands the blessing is in our unity. And if you look at how we were able to grow from slavery to Reconstruction to the Civil Rights era, the way we were able to do it was through united efforts. Whenever we allow systems and structures and people to divide us as a people, is where you see, what I believe is generational slides like the one that we're in, where our kids are not being educated. The reality is, since 1980, our public schools in the inner city has not produced a report card above a 40% for white, black, or Hispanic kids in math or reading. This is a generational problem. And so for me, I think instead of even pointing the finger to other school systems and saying we're sending our kids to you all, no, we need to fulfill and pick up the mantle of the civil rights era and build our own. And so for me, that's the message that I would share. If we could stick together, if we could stay together, if we could be united as a people, and if we could look to one another for solutions and stop sending our kids to whoever they or them is or are, that's the way. That's the wave of the future. And so that's what I would encourage the audience is, let's look to one another. Let's look to God, of course, who is the source and strength of our life. And let's look to one another and build solutions together that will help our children to, as you say, be on the right flight for the future that I believe God has for us. Thank you for this time
Well,
of
thank you
being able
for
to share with
coming, and
you.
I hope that your words of wisdom, as I said, I hear people all over, not just in Harrisburg, but the good part was everything you said, it could be duplicated. Philadelphia,
Exactly.
Pittsburgh, York,
Yep.
wherever, Chester. Oh, I could
Hmm.
name a whole lot of them. But it's about accountability. But like you said, but we gotta step up to the plate and hold people accountable. But we gotta do stuff ourselves.
Hmm.
So I want to thank you for coming on. I enjoyed this, and ladies and gentlemen, please, this is gonna be my last word. Take heed to what the young man said. Thank you, Rep.
Thank you so much. Blessings to you.
Yep, that's it.
All right.
Thank you for watching Did You Know with Richard Utley. Please mark your calendar and join us every first and third Tuesday at 11 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube. Did you know, if you would like to be a guest on the show, or if you have an interesting topic or individual that you would like to see us discuss during future broadcasts, you can reach out to us on Facebook at Richard Utley. Until next time, have a nice day, and we will see you again for another Did You Know, and can be found on most of your favorite social media platforms.